So, you've booked your P&O cruise. You've packed your best clothes for celebration night. And you've seen that you can enjoy a dinner with a menu created by top chef Marco Pierre White. And perhaps the best thing is that it won't cost you any money to experience this celebration night event. In this food review, we ask, it's free, but is it worth it? The first thing to say about Chef's Table on Arvia is that it takes place here, which is essentially a rear, closed-off section of the Horizon buffet. The other thing you need to know is that even though you don't pay extra for this, you do need to book your place for this dinner. You can do this through the My Holiday app while on board, or from 14 days before your cruise, online. Okay, let's go and eat. Here is the Chef's Table menu from that evening. You can pause this video to look at it in more detail. Our video now will review the dishes that we experienced, our thoughts on them, and the entire concept of the Chef's Table dinner from our view. Okay. We are going to review and rate some of the dishes from the Chef's Table menu, giving detailed comments on each and a score out of a total of 10 points. Amuse. Carrot and peach soup with a ginger and lime salsa, laced with P&O Cruises Marabelle gin. It's a common practice to start a meal of fine dining with something called an amuse-bouche, a French culinary term which translates to amuse the mouth. It's intended to be an appetizer to gently stimulate your palate and appetite for the food which follows. In the couple of mouthfuls from this cup of chilled soup, we mainly detected sweetness, some citrus, and the warm hit of the ginger. All pleasant enough, but not amusing to the mouth in any meaningful or memorable way. Cannelloni of poached and oak smoked salmon, avocado mousseline, salmon caviar, apple gel and pink peppercorn biscotti. This starter delivered a delightful hit of salty and fishy deliciousness. The mousseline combined with the other salmon and ingredients created a pleasurable creamy texture and experience in the mouth, which was punctuated with bites of the biscotti. We couldn't detect much taste from it, but the biscotti perfectly created a contrast of crunch to complement the other elements of this dish. Our verdict: a success both visually on the plate and vividly on the palate. Quality ingredients, well constructed. 8 out of 10. Crispy braised lamb bonbon, rich Buna sauce, coriander mayonnaise, and a garnish of pink pickled onions. A crispy coating that encased a shredded lamb interior, texture and taste of which were very pleasant. When accompanied by the Buna sauce, it delivered a punch of spicy heat which can be mildly cooled by the mayonnaise. We can't quite appreciate or understand the purpose of the pickled onion. They weren't particularly pink as described in the menu, so not especially decorative. And there was enough strong and distinctive flavor on the plate so as not to require anything extra, such as pickled onions. If anything, some cooling, refreshing shreds of cucumber would have been more appreciated and created a more attractive garnish. Our verdict on this dish: a well-presented plate, overall, but quite heavy as a starter. It may not be a good choice if you want a heavy, considerable main course, like the beef Wellington. 7 out of 10. Pan-fried sea bass fillet à la grenobloise. Herb crushed new potatoes, saffron braised chicory with a brioche crust, and creamy cauliflower puree. If we start by telling you that the best thing on this plate was the cauliflower puree, then it might give you some sense that this main course was something of a disappointment and a poorly created dish. Whatever went wrong in its creation in the kitchen resulted in very oily, greasy portions of fish, which totally robbed it of its delicate flavor. This oiliness also found its way down into the crushed potatoes, which then became mushy and inedible. The oily, greasy theme continued to plague this dish, as the brioche crust of the braised chicory did nothing to present a crispy or crunchy crust, but simply slid off in an oily mush on the plate. Perhaps the best guess as to how this dish was a disaster is that those chefs involved in its preparation simply lifted the cooked elements from pan to plate without first allowing the oil they'd been cooked in to be soaked up first. A mistake likely to come from kitchen staff under pressure to plate up and serve up during a busy dining event such as this. Our verdict: 2 out of 10. Quicks Extra Mature Cheddar, cherry almond and linseed toast, fine cheese biscuits, dried figs, and nigella seed chutney. Would you like a large lump of cheese and some very dry things to accompany it, described as fine cheese biscuits? And some fancy-sounding toast? Well, you're in luck at the chef's table. This plate shows absolutely no skill or creative flair in its preparation or execution. Standard biscuits you'd find in your home. Toast dry and tasteless. Some mildly interesting chutney and figs. But mostly, all let down by the lack of a small selection of contrasting flavored cheeses rather than one type of cheese. A selection of more than one is most commonly the way that the cheese plate or cheese course is served in restaurants. Our verdict: a disappointing lack of a variety of cheeses and fine biscuits that were essentially basic, standard, everyday crackers. We rate this 4 out of 10. Tea, coffee, and petit fours. Chocolate truffles. Perhaps the finale to this 5-course meal and dining experience can be salvaged or enhanced by some beautifully crafted petit fours, truffles, and coffee? Sadly no. There was a distinct and obvious absence of any petit fours. Barely, merely, a petty, one singular truffle. And the coffee? That was served in the standard mug used in the ship's buffet, which was of course the location for this black tie celebration night chef's table event. So, we posed the question. Chef's table. It's free, but is it worth it? As you've seen in our video, there is very little that is exceptional and impressive about the food served from this menu. And in other reviews that we've seen, the fact that the venue is the buffet restaurant somewhat dilutes a sense of glamour and special occasion. The reality is that on celebration night, you can experience a good dinner and a location in perhaps more stylish and elegant surroundings, more appropriate to fine clothes and fine food in the main dining rooms. So, is it worth it? Only you can decide.